You're all right. Um, be doing something a little different today. Uh, as many of you might know, Preach is an alcoholic. Now, I've never referred to myself as an alcoholic because I never wanted to admit it. Um, we're on day zero, and so my new chill thing to do is listen to people who've been sober for many years, who have mentored many people, and have been mentored by people much smarter than them. So uh, I think it's pretty a cool little series to start. Right now it's just as random because it was randomly thought of. So I'm gonna be listening to some speakers while I'm playing Madden. It's gonna be fun. If anybody wants to start a discussion in the chat, as long as it's not fucking toxic, you're all welcome. Um, yeah, and I'm putting that Cash App in the chat. Let me do it right now, cause I got mods, but they got their own stuff. You know what I mean? They got their own channels that they fuck with. Um, Let me see here. As long as I got this bitch in 1080p HD, it should be perfectly fine. All right. Um, I don't know how to pin things. I gotta open up the chat. We can do a live chat, right? Okay, here we go. Donate to the Cash App, man. We just gonna be playing Madden, vibing. Um, Manage moderators, and all. Don't need to do that. Pop out chat. Oh, that's kind of cool. I could just. All right, whatever. All right, cool. Anyways, let me not get too distracted. Oh, this speaker is Ralph W. If y'all can't hear it, let me know. We're
I
gonna.
see you, Eva. We know what you're thinking. I'm jittering alone. I can't do this. But you can. To duplicate with such backing what we have accomplished is only a matter of willingness, patience, and labor. Still, you may say I don't have the benefit of those of you who wrote this book. That we can't be sure. But your real reliance must be on a power greater than yourself. God will show you how to create the fellowship we crave. My name is Ralph White. I am an alcoholic. I want to thank the committee for asking me to come up here and share my experience, strength, and hope tonight, this morning. I want to thank the speakers who preceded me. Mr. Kenny Bob, who got this party started off right on Friday night. Speakers I listened to at the old timers, long timers meeting on Saturday. The split speaker, Al-Anon, and AA speaker I had the opportunity to listen to. The other speakers I've heard over the weekend. The new friends I've made this week.
Yeah, I haven't yet to um finish these because I've been just doing them on live streams with y'all.
Weekend and the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous stepping up and showing again and demonstrating to me what it is that we're about. And I really want to thank this committee. I want to thank Robin for her hospitality. I want to thank the committee for, the gifts, the baskets, the hospitality, all the things that you've done for me this weekend. I want to thank the Diva Squad on the committee for all that you did this weekend. Miss Patty, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for your message and thank you for your walk. All the people who took the time to stand off to the side with me and share their experience, strength, and hope this weekend, I want to thank you. My good friend Tim over here in the taping. Now I got all the housekeeping out the way. I cannot, forget this one guy. When you get up here sometimes, you'll feel like, and I don't want to make this the Oscar, so I'm going to cut this short.
Salute, Octavius. Like I said before, I'm gonna say many, many more times. If you can't hear something, let me know. I'll fix it. But yeah, salute to you. The Cash App is there if you choose to donate, but if you don't, the view and you just being here is dope. Even if you're in the chat, man. So I appreciate the interaction over the donations, man. Even though money's cool, money does a lot of things, man. But it's not everything. Not everything. Some things last forever, and money isn't one of those things.
No. But Tim Whitcomb, daily inspirations on a daily basis. If you do this thing, Alcoholics Anonymous, we have, in Alcoholics Anonymous, we have a logo. It's a triangle inside a circle. Triangle, unity, recovery, and service. And if you really want to experience the gifts and the benefits of this program in its entirety and in its totality, I salute the soldiers in Alcoholics Anonymous, our service junkies, our H&I people, the people who go out and do what's done, not in the light. See, I'm standing in the light right now. I'm at a podium. But we got some service soldiers in here that are in our institutions.
Hey, bro, you being here. It's all good, man.
That are in the prisons,
enjoy yourself,
that are
man.
in the jails,
Kick
that are
back,
on
chill.
Skid Row, that are in
Talk
the
some
missions,
shit,
that are carrying this message to the still sick and suffering alcoholic. And I'm glad that we have those soldiers, because it is those soldiers who kept the light on for a drunk like me. And they still keep the light on. And I'm grateful. Got the housekeeping out the way. I'll do the most important thing I can do this morning. I want to welcome our new friends to the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. I want to let you know that if you drank like I drank, and if you felt like I felt, this is probably the best step you can take from the cradle to the grave. I don't say that because I'm this morning's speaker. I don't say it because it's the right thing to say when you get behind a podium in Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't say it because it's, that's the correct and proper thing to say, though I'm all those things. I say it because this program, this process, and this power that you introduced me to has been working in my life like nothing I had discovered. When I sit through a countdown like this and I get humbled in the presence of so many years of recovery, I get humbled in the presence of some of the people who I've admired from, even though I don't know you yet, or even though I don't know your face, I've heard your tapes and I've seen your walk and I've seen the demonstrations of you through some of the people you've touched, and so when I get in a countdown in Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm humbled. I still feel like a baby. And when I get in the presence of people, we started at 58 years. And I'm following up Patty and Kenny. And I want to impress you guys and say, I'm not going to share a lone drunkalog. I really want to share about recovery. But I remember being new to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, somewhat like our new friends who are here this morning. And I remember going to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and a speaker was standing in front of the group that particular night, and he was dressed pretty nice, and his hair was combed, and his eyes were bright, and he was stringing sentences together real well. And I remember thinking to myself that particular night, I know this cat ain't done what I've done. I know he ain't felt what I felt. And I know he ain't been where I've been. What can this lame tell me? So it's real important that I share with you, that the guy that's standing in front of you this morning is not the same one that stumbled into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous October 11th, 1986. I'm going to share with you in a general way what I used to be like, what happened, and what I'm like today, in the hopes that somebody out there will be thinking like I was thinking. Man, I used to do the same thing. Man, I used to feel the same way. Or more important, I too want to have this thing. See, you can't appreciate what it is that my life has become today if you don't know where it is that I come from. I grew up in South Central Los Angeles from a real large family. I have 5 brothers. We stayed in a little 2-bedroom apartment. Moms and pops stayed in
I could have sworn I hit the goddamn button.
Bunk beds in the other room. Earliest memory of my old man was he was a drunk and I didn't want to be like him. My father wasn't abusive and my father wasn't violent. My father was an absentee drunk. And every other Friday, like clockwork, you could count on him not showing up at the house. It would be a kid in the neighborhood who would feel like it was his duty to share with my family how my old man had been showing his ass up at the pool hall the previous Friday or Saturday night. And I would feel ashamed and I would feel embarrassed. And those are feelings I'm familiar with from a real early age. Pops got put out the house when we were 9. When I was about 9 or 10 years old, my mom proceeded to raise these 6 boys by herself. Don't know about any of you guys in here, but when I grew up, at least in my mind, ideal family life was depicted by the TV programs that came on at the time. And the TV programs that came on when I grew up showing ideal families, Father Knows Best, Leave It to Beaver, My 3 Sons, Donna Reed, and Bet That Wasn't Jumping Off at my house. When you're grown, you get something that's called perspective. And perspective works like this. You had a mom that raised 6 boys by herself. She was on welfare and she didn't have a high school education. She put herself back through high school. She put herself through college. She worked 2 jobs. She took in clothes that she washed and ironed for other folk. And when you're grown, you look back on your life and say, damn, I had a hell of a mom. Look how she sacrificed to raise her boys. But when you're a kid about 9 or 10 years old and you bring in a couple of partners home from school on a Wednesday afternoon and you hit the front door and mom's is in the living room with an ironing board up with a rag on her head, you don't feel proud. You feel ashamed and embarrassed. You start living in that fantasy world about what life is really like for you at the house. And if your name is Ralph, you retreat into that prison I've lived in much of my life. And that's the prison of what I think you think about me. See, I don't know what you think about me, but I'm trapped in what I think you think about me. And I'll do whatever it takes to shape and form and mold your opinion of Ralph. I'll whine you, I'll dine you, I'll woo you, I'll con you, I'll bully you, I'll manipulate you, I'll buy you. Please like me. Now, I don't particularly have to like your ass, but please like me. I like to throw a disclaimer out at about this point in the proceedings because somebody's getting confused about what we got going on this morning. Somebody is probably thinking to themselves, this guy might be all right speaking. He's looking around the room, making eye contact with everybody. Don't let that fool you. I'm looking for the person whose attention is drifting, look like you're going to sleep. I'm going to work on your ass. You'll like me. Trapped in what I think you think about me. And to our new friends, you'll hear a lot of common themes in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And one of the common themes you'll hear from a lot of our members is they just never felt like they fit in. And that's not my story. I'm a little guy. I like a lot of attention. I've never been interested in fitting in. I've always wanted to stand out. And as a result of that, I achieved and I accomplished a few things in my life. There are many different pictures of the alcoholic, as there are men and women sitting in this room right now. And I used to be confused about that when I came, and my story's my story. And the reason you get mine is because I'm this morning speaker. That's pretty much it. And my story goes somewhat like this. Every single one of you had me in your classroom. I was a straight A student. I was teacher's pet. I was generally class president or student body president. I played ball. I made all-stars. On the outside, it seemed like I should have been okay. On the inside, I've always felt like if you really knew me, you wouldn't like me. I was a teacher's pet. I was a straight A student. I did all those things, but I would have traded it all in if I could have been cool. If I could have been cool. Because the neighborhood I grew up in, there was a whole lot more currency put on cool than it was on smart. I always have to backtrack right here because somebody's probably thinking to themselves, maybe this guy was alcoholic. He come from a single family house. He had this mom and they didn't have a whole lot. And he seemed like he had this bleak background. And that's not my story at all. I felt like I had the ideal life and I wouldn't have traded it for anything in the world. I had 5 brothers. I never knew a lonely moment. We didn't have anything. Sometimes you don't know what you don't have till you have something, right? Because I didn't know we didn't have till I became a parent myself and started trying to provide. On Christmas, I used to go to sleep on Christmas Eve in my clothes because I couldn't wait to get up on Christmas morning. We'd have board games and Chinese checkers and my brothers maybe would get a glove or a bike. Now, I didn't realize my mom was doing Christmas for 6 boys on probably $50 to $80 back then, and I didn't realize till I was grown that the church used to kick in and we would have some things for Christmas. I just thought it was a lot of love in my house, and after my old man got put out, I never saw chaos. I never saw drinking. I never saw any of that in my house. My mother was a real strong woman and she ruled with a firm hand. And somehow, some way she instilled this drive in these boys that she had, And so growing up for me, man, I couldn't have imagined being anybody but me. We played ball. It was 6 of us. 5 of us made up the infield. One of my brothers played left field. In those days, in those days, there's some people in here that can remember, Cat, you could play in the street, man, and we be 2 people, 3 flies up, 3 people, overline, you just all kind of making up games. So anyway, I grew up in this. I thought, I wouldn't have traded my childhood. Like Patty, I fell in love with books. Me and my brothers used to walk to the library and we check out, the limit was 4 books apiece and we check them out and we read them in a week and we take them back. Anyway, so I'm growing up like this, man, just a kid growing up with big goals, dreams, and ambitions. So I would have traded in to be cool, though, because the cats who was cool, they were shooting dice in the bathroom. They were smoking cigarettes. They was taking quarters from guys like me that brought extra quarters, right? And they knew how to talk to girls. And girls were a mystery to me, man, And so I fast forward and I'm still like this. I'm on a fast track for success. I'm not going to be my daddy. That I'm not going to be. I'll make my family proud of me. I'll never abandon my kids. I'll never embarrass them. So I'm on this fast track for success. I'm growing up, still shy and introverted. I'm 16 years old now. Still ain't never done nothing, not even trying to. I'm 16 years old and I get a girlfriend. Now, Ralph with a girlfriend at 16 don't mean the same thing it means for some of you cats. Ralph with a girlfriend at 16 simply means this. I ran with a crew of dudes that went with the same group of girls. One of my boys broke up with this girl. I waited a suitable amount of time to pass and I told my other boy, look, I want to go with her. He went and asked and she came back and told me. She said yes, right? Now I have a girlfriend. Right? But I don't know what to do with her because Ralph don't do girls right now. Check this out. I had other girlfriends before, but this one actually knew she was my girlfriend. Right? And she was claiming me. If she was claiming me, check out how I was. This is how I was rolling it. This girl, if you would ask her who you go with, she would have told you I go with Ralph. And this is my official girlfriend. And back in those days, remember them old rotary phones? Some of you youngsters are like, what? This device that had, anyway, talk after me. This rotary phones, and I dial that 7th number, and it would come back around, seem like in slow motion, and terror would set in, because I knew what would have to happen when she answered the phone, right? It's the telephone, you got to talk. And I just hang up on my girlfriend, click, right? Because I didn't have no conversation. Go out this particular night. I'm with an older partner of mine. Him and his girl are in the front seat of the car. Me and my girl are in the back seat. We go out on a double date. Plastic cup of rum and Coke comes to the back seat this particular night. Drank that rum and Coke down, went down real warm, rushed back to the top of my brain. All of a sudden, Ralph's hands started doing things they had never done. Mouth started saying things that had never said, and I had arrived. Alcohol did for me what I couldn't do for myself. Gave me the courage to do and to be and to say things I couldn't do, be and say without it, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. The big book, Alcoholics Anonymous, talks about me in a lot of places, and it starts talking about me in the front of that book. To our new friends, there's a chapter in the front called The Doctor's Opinion. And they slipped a line in there, I didn't recognize or understand a lot of what I read, but the first time I read this line, I understood it immediately. There's a line in there that goes something like this. Men and women like Ralph drink essentially for the effect produced by alcohol. I recognized that the first time. Some of you old veterans sitting in here might be drinking that scotch and be like, I'm scrunching my face up, but I like what it did when it went down. I'm not overnight alcoholic. I understand we talk about this disease being progressive in nature because that's how it showed up for me. I started drinking in the 11th grade, and I was just drinking to go to parties the youngsters used to go to, and we'd be drinking what youngsters drank. Annie Green Springs, Boone's Farm, Tyrolia, Spinata, and I'm getting in there, and I'm at the party, and I even got the curtain. Now I'm dancing. I'm even slow dancing and grinding in the corner. I'm like, yeah, I like alcohol, So I graduate from high school, and my drinking is still just to go to parties. I graduate from high school in 71, and I graduate to higher education in every sense of the word. I start college, and I'm still just drinking to go to parties. By the end of 71, I'm drinking not only on the weekend to go to the parties, but I'm drinking on the weekend during the day to get ready for the party. By 72, I'm drinking not only on the weekend, but I'm drinking during the week. And like Kenny Bob, I too added some non-addictive marijuana to the mix. By the end of 72,
non-addictive marijuana.
I'm smoking herb, and I'm selling it, and I'm doing it during the week. By 73, I'm drinking, I'm smoking herb, I'm selling herb, I'm doing other drugs, I'm doing it on a daily basis, and you could not have told me it was anything wrong with the way that I was living.
Wow!
Anonymous talks about at a certain point in my drinking career, I won't be able to tell the truth from the false. And the way that worked for me was this. In the way that I'm doing it, isn't that the way
he didn't even fucking reach for the ball?
With a bright future, with a little bit of money, I was giving financial aid. Didn't chasing women and getting loaded come with the territory. In those days, man, if you came over my house and I couldn't offer you something to drink or something to smoke, I wasn't being a good host. And if I went over your house and you didn't do the same for me, not only weren't you being a good host, wasn't coming over your house no more. For what? I don't know if it was a simple, no disrespect to our young friends. I'm not talking about our new friends now. I'm talking about our young friends. No disrespect, but I am so glad I grew up at the time that I grew up. I don't know if it was a simpler time, but it seemed like a simpler time. You know what I'm saying? Now in 2006, you got to worry about sexually transmitted disease, AIDS, and safe sex. All that. Man, back in those days, I would go to a club. I'd have a one-question interview for a girl. You get high? If not, next, I don't need to waste no time with where do you work and what's your last name and what's your sign and let's get to the basis of this relationship. Somehow I made it through school and I started working as a counselor for LA City Schools. And even though I had the kind of job that should have allowed me to acquire what normal people did, I never did that. Never did it. Snapshot of Ralph's life. This is when alcohol was working. I would buy a car. I'd make exactly 3 car payments, then come find it. Come find it. The first time I got a car repossessed, I had the nerve to call the police. I called the police. My car, I went outside, no car. What? I call the police. They do what they do, come back on the line. No, Mr. White, your car's not stolen. The rightful owner just came and picked up this. I'm 9 months behind on the car note, and I'm calling the police. The next 2 times, I didn't even trip. I already knew, I'm the kind of brother that never had a problem balancing a bank book. Payday, I got money. 2 days later, broke. 0. No problem balancing my bank book. I stayed in the crib from 1976 to 1979 without paying rent. A couple of baffling features about the disease I suffer from, and one of them is this. I can't see my relationship with alcohol until I'm free of it. I can't see what it's doing to me when I'm in the mix. So some of the things that are crystal clear to me now, looking back in the rearview mirror of experience, were not at all clear to me when I was in it. I don't know about you guys, but I like to play the game sometime. I used to do it a long time in Alcoholics Anonymous, the regret game. If I only knew then what I knew now. Because you know what I don't like about that invisible line? Yeah, it's invisible. It ain't no warning. If you take that next one, because it don't work like that. I'd be out there, I see somebody like Tim and be like, man, if I get like him, I'll quit. If I ever get like that. Look at Jeff and be, man, you need some help. What's wrong? The book talks about seeking the Lord companion. Wasn't long before I became the Lord companion. But that's the way I was rolling, man. If I only knew then that what I knew, yeah, right. There's a story I like to tell. A story about a little boy named Johnny. And Johnny had a habit his father frowned on. Johnny used to like to play with himself. And one day his father goes off to work and comes home early. Little Johnny's bedroom door is closed. Father goes into the bedroom without knocking. Sure enough, little Johnny's in the bedroom masturbating. Father looks at him and says, son, I thought I told you if you keep doing that, you'll go blind. And little Johnny stopped and looked at his daddy and said, well, Dad, can I just do it till I need glasses? See, I like that. That's an alcoholic story. That reminds me of me in the life. I see you going down, I'm just going, yeah, right. And I
Nigga
can't
stepped
tell you the
right
moment,
in
I
the
can't tell you
fucking
the hour,
way.
I can't tell you where I was or what I was doing when alcohol ceased to be a luxury for me and became a necessity. You know, Bill's description of the invisible line, but I can tell you that it did happen for me. 1980, I got married on a Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock. I had a bachelor party the night before my wedding. None of the guys at my bachelor party are getting married the next day. All of them have sense enough to go home at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm still at my bachelor party till 7:30 in the morning, right? Me and my brothers, 4 of us made it to these rooms, you know, and I get in the bed, they pour me in bed at 7:30. I get up at 10 o'clock for my 1 o'clock wedding, right? I've just laid on the top of the bed, clothes toe up, right? I'm just laying on the bed, and I get up for my 1 o'clock wedding, right? And I show up at the wedding, and I'm wobbling in, and I'm supposed to say my own vows at this wedding, and I wobble in there, and my then wife-to-be looked at me wobbling, and she looked at the preacher, she said, scratch the own vows, say the regular on his ass, right? So now my lines are cut to 2 words, and we get into the ceremony, and, you know, it gets to me, and I get ready to say I do. I say and threw up. Oh, passed out. Have not taken a wedding picture to this day. Pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. Again, to our new friends, if you're anything like me, when I came around the rooms, you know, the people in the rooms weren't using words I was unfamiliar with. I was familiar with all the words, but I wasn't familiar with the way that they used them in here, because the way they used them in here was not the same way I used them in my everyday walk-around vocabulary. Folk in here were talking about this phenomenon of craving and this psychic change and this allergy of the body, and I needed some help for some of that. But the first time I heard pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization, didn't need no help with that one. Folk like us don't need a dictionary for pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization. I lived pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization up close and personal. And I lived it over and over and over and over and over and over again. Because I got to let you guys know that that wedding day was the high point of that marriage. Went downhill after that. Because I'm the kind of father, and I'm the kind of husband, remember sitting on my living room couch, wife coming out the bathroom real fast, pulling her pants up and going to the dining room table, picking her purse up off the table, clutching it real close to her. She went back to the bathroom. And I feel this tall because nobody was in the house but me and her, but it got like that in my house. I'm the kind of father and I'm the kind of husband, remember coming home, sticking my key in the door. Wife and 2-year-old daughter sitting here and they're crying. I look over here and homeboy sitting in my seat with a gun pointed at my stomach talking about, I want my money right now. Let me talk to the men for just a minute. Don't know if the rest of you guys ever had those fears and doubts about, do I have what it takes to be a father? Do I have what it takes to be a husband? Because if you're in the life, your track record already gives you your answer, right? Because what's the father's role and what's the husband's role? To protect and to provide. And it's a cold-blooded feeling, fellas, laying in bed with a woman night after night after night after night, knowing not only aren't you protected, knowing not only aren't you providing, you the one bringing the wolf to the door. See, my house got broken into several times. Each time I pretended to call 77th Division. Each time I knew I was playing a game because they had told me, you're going to give us our money or we're going to come up in there and get it. I'm the kind of father and I'm the kind of husband, remember sitting on my back porch. 2-year-old daughter coming outside pulling at my coat. Daddy, that's my piggy bank. I remember stopping and giving her a shitty grin. Don't worry, baby. Daddy's going to put some dollar bills in here for this change.
That's bullshit.
And I wasn't raised to be stealing from my daughter. And I wasn't raised to be stealing from my wife. But I was an alcoholic with no tools of recovery, and I did what it took to get what I needed to get. I've already shared with you guys that my disease is progressive in nature, and in my experience, it's progressive in a couple of areas. Shared one already. It takes more than it used to take in order for me to get the same effect. But my disease is progressive in another area, my behavior. My behavior gets progressively worse. I'm willing to do more readily to chase this thing I discovered. First time I win my wife's purse. If you would hook me up to a poly that particular night, if you would hook me up to a polygraph, I know I would have passed when I said,
this running back
I'm just
is
taking
ass.
this money and I'm going to replace it before it's gone, because I don't steal. I don't steal. You know, I really don't steal from my family. You know how the line keeps changing. I really don't steal from my family. You know, and I took $40 out of my wife's purse. I had been out doing what I do, came in, looked for some money. She was not hiding the purse. I'd never hid it. Took $40, deliberated a long time, said, I'm going to replace this money before she knows it's missing. And I did that, and I went out, spent it up, came back looking for some more money. She had moved the purse. I didn't look too hard for it because I couldn't believe what I had done already. Replace this money before she knows it's missing. 2 weeks later, the same scenario presented itself. Gotten paid, giving her some money. Went out like I do on payday, staying out all night, you know, and they wrote our book It was published in 39, wrote it back in the 30s, and they knew I was coming in 86. And they slipped a lot of lines in there about me. And there's a line in there, they said, we don't know why, but the alcoholic could be unable to recall with sufficient force. Pain, suffering, humiliation of weeks or even days ago. And that thought of, I'm going to replace this money before it's missing, was replaced 2 weeks later. I didn't deliberate so long before I looked at the purse this time. The idea of replacing the money didn't come up. In fact, it was replaced with a new idea. I said, last time I took $40, came back looking for the rest of the money, and she had moved the purse. This time I'll take all the money out, and that I don't spend up, I'll sneak it back in the purse, right? And I was often running to hit my wife's purse on a regular basis. I'd take it on a Wednesday, come back on Monday. Did that one too many Wednesdays, came back one Monday. Suitcase was on the porch, note was on the screen. The rest of your stuff is at your mom's house. I'm put out of my house, I'm now my daddy. I went to stay at my mom's house back then, and over the course of that next year, my 5 brothers got put out of their respective homes for the same reason, and all 6 of us ended up back in my mom's house. And over the course of those next several years, we proceeded to damn near kill my mom.
Yo, what up,
When
Jermaine?
I came around the program, I came around here several times.
I wasn't looking at the chat. What's up, bro? He said you butt. Yeah, I got mine on PC. I had to download Origin to play it, and then they got a new EA app. Yeah, what up, son?
Stay. Somebody take me back to I just got to my mom's house as I lose this train of thought, but I'm going to go down another path for a minute. When I came, the way I used to do the program the first couple of times I came, I'm a good mimic and I'm a good chameleon, and I like a lot of attention, and I like to sound good and look good at all costs. That's what I'm really about, image over substance all the time. And I come into a room and I go to meetings, and I thought I was sincere, the proof wouldn't come until looking back. And I'd be at meetings and I'd listen to people share, and I'd listen like I heard Patty last night, and I'd pick out the most profound stuff she said. I go to a meeting the next night, make sure Patty's not at the meeting and not too many of you guys. I repeat what she said. I tack on or keep coming back. And I thought because I claimed it from the podium, that would make it true in my experience. And I kept getting loaded. Did not see myself at all in the Big Book Alcoholics Anonymous. In fact, in one of those treatment programs, because you guys read a portion of Chapter 5 at every meeting, I knew Chapter 5 was the most important chapter. So I would go to my room and I'd start reading the book at Chapter 5. Later on, somebody told me, Ralph, opening the Big Book Alcoholics Anonymous and starting at Chapter 5 is somewhat like going and getting a math book and opening it up to the chapter on algebra. You will look good to know some addition and subtraction and first, and so opening up the big book in the middle, but that's what I did. I never saw myself in the book, never found my story in the book. Read Bill's story, saw all the differences in the book. Bill was an older white gentleman. We don't have that in common. Bill was a veteran of foreign wars. I'm a Vietnam-era draft dodger. Bill talks in his story about there had been no real infidelity. Oh, well, miss me on that one, too. Bill was a Wall Street stockbroker. Check out how I handle money. We don't have. So I looked for all the differences. And when I came back the last time, somebody taught me how to read the Big Book of
Pastor,
Alcoholics Anonymous.
what up,
And they
nigga?
said, Ralph, the same way that you
Hit
read
the
the Big Book of
cash app.
Alcoholics
You
Anonymous
gotta pay to
is the
talk
same
shit
way
to
that
me,
you listen
boy.
to our members share their stories when they get up to that podium or at our meetings. When you read the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and when you listen to our members share their stories, ask yourself 3 or 4 questions. Did I drink like he drank? Did I think like he thought? Did I feel like he felt? Or did I do what he did? And when I read the Big Book with those questions in mind, it became alive for me. It came alive for me. Because I remember Bill talked about he was a part of life at last, and drink was taking a more and more important part of his life. I got to this major university. I'm running with these people, and I'm running with this fast crew. I had arrived just like he had arrived. Bill talked about the drive for success was on. I'd proved to the world I was important. That was always me. That was always me. Drive for success was on. I got to prove to you guys I'm not my daddy. My first goal as a kid, I had 2 goals. One, I wanted to play shortstop and wear number 30 for the Dodgers. Mario Wills was my idol. When it got clear I wasn't going to have that career, I had a second goal as a kid. I listened to Patty. Her story was so similar to mine, talking about wanting to be the first female Supreme Court justice. I used to tell people I'm going to be the first black president of the United States. And when I read Bill's story, Bill said he imagined himself the head of vast enterprises. I identified with that kind of grandiosity. So I saw myself in Bill's story all the time. Once I came and could see clearly. And one of the things I see clearly now, Bill talked about he wouldn't draw a sober breath for 5 years. He got put out of his spot. Read it for you. I mean, he wouldn't, and he talked about being at his in-laws' house and his wife coming home every day with a little bag. When I got put out of my house and went to stay at my mother's house, my mama came home every day with a bag of groceries. Because if she didn't, these 6 grown leeches she had given birth to would have been giving out plates to the people in the neighborhood. You know, that's how we were making money. Every day. We damn near killed her. It was something salvageable about this piece of man that my ex-wife thought she married at this particular time when I first got put out the house. And she used to bring my daughter over to my mom's house on Saturday afternoons so we could keep a father-daughter relationship. And I wanted to be a father to my little girl with everything in me. I really, really, really did. I wanted to take my girl to Disneyland and Magic Mountain. I wanted to take her to a movie on a Saturday afternoon. I wanted to walk up the street with her little hand in my big hand and just take her to the store, buy her ice cream. I wanted to sit her in my lap and read her stories. I wanted to tuck her in bed at night, give her a goodnight kiss. I wanted to get the look from my little girl that I've seen men in this fellowship get. The look like, this is my daddy and this is my hero. And the best I could do on those Saturday afternoons was 30 minutes. 30 minutes. I tell my mom something like, I'm going to the store to buy Rain some ice cream. And I would disappear. It would be Saturday afternoon. I would come back on Monday. I'd sneak back on Sunday night when her mom was picking her up. Still remember some of them long Sunday nights, man, sticking my head around the side of my mom's house. See those 2 heads in the car and the headlights backing out, and I'd be thinking to myself, tears streaming, tears flowing. I'd be thinking to myself, there go my life backing out this driveway. I'd be crying, man. And I've heard a lot of people in the room share about being scared of dying when they were out there. It's not my story. I was never scared of dying. I was scared I was going to keep waking up to the same old thing. Monday the same as Tuesday, the same as Sunday, the same as Christmas, over and over and over again. And I am so glad God don't make misery comfortable. And on October 11, 1986, I got miserable enough and I got tired enough that I got directed to my 4th program of recovery. And I went to the Harbor Life Center on Skid Row in downtown Los Angeles. 2 days after I was in that program, they took me to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And a gentleman was standing up in front of that meeting somewhat like I am this morning. And I remember that October in 1986, I was full of shame. I was full of guilt. I was full of remorse. I was full I'll never be able to forgive myself for things I had done and what I had become. I've only shared with you guys the tip of the iceberg. Didn't share with you when I got put out of my house and went to stay at my mom's house, start stealing out my mom's purse. Didn't share with you when I got put out of my house and went to stay at my mom's house. Check came to one of my little brothers in the name of R. White. All of us are R. White, stole it. Didn't share with you when my grandmother gave me $200 to buy her plane ticket for the family reunion. If it wasn't for my mom, my grandmother never would have saw Atlanta, Georgia. Didn't share with you. First time I tried to get sober, my ex-wife got me a job at her job, stole $1,600 from them, ruined her reputation in that industry. Didn't share with you a lot. Suffice it to say I had a lot on my tip when I came. And a gentleman was standing at the meeting, at the podium that particular night at that meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And he was sharing somewhat like I've been sharing.
Team fucking sucks.
He was sharing about taking from the job, and he was sharing about taking from the family. And I remember sitting out there and looking at him and thinking to myself, yeah, you sharing about doing scandalous things, but you look scandalous. You should have been doing that shit. You know, I'm different. Y'all ain't gonna hear my business. And the speaker seemed like he was reading my mail and knew I was in the room. He dropped something on me like this. He said, if you're sitting in this room right now, you are not responsible for your disease, but you are responsible for your recovery. And you have just now tapped into a source of power much greater than yourself. And you don't have to drink and you don't have to use no matter what, provided you are willing to fulfill some conditions. And he caught my attention. He went on to say, this is the only club you can be a member of where the worse off you are when you get here, the better off your chances of staying. And I got the message of hope. I got the message of hope in the first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous they took me to. He described to me what I suffer from, that it's something physically different about me than other folk. And see, I don't know about anybody else. We do a lot of sharing. We do a lot of caring. I listened to Patty talk about good sponsorship last night and the need for good sponsorship. You know, and there are lots of things that people bring to the table. I don't have to bring but one element to the table. Can't nobody bring it for me. To our new friends, that's the one can't nobody else bring for me. Not sponsor, not Bill, not Bob, not this morning speaker, not any of the people sitting out there in those seats, you know. That's the one ingredient can't nobody else bring, and I brought it that morning. A well-worked ass. I was willing. I was willing. I was willing. And old timers in AA say, we want you when alcohol is through with you. That's the great persuader. I don't spend a lot of time trying to convince nobody of their powerlessness. Alcohol convinced me. And step one is a conclusion I draw based on my own experience. And that last experience I had and that last go round I had, I came up in here, man. I learned some things about my anatomy in those last years too. I found out that when that ass is raw, my mouth closes and my ears open. Curious thing about that phenomena though. When it starts healing, my ears start closing and my mouth starts open. Funny thing, so I needed to be well tenderized so my ears would stay open a long time. I would sit on the front row and the speaker was sharing and it seemed like he was talking directly to me. I was listening to him and he was saying, it's something physically different about me. And it seemed like he invited me to diagnose myself. Ralph, don't take my word for it. Ask yourself, how many times did you say, I'm just going to spend 20? What happened? Whole paycheck. How many times did you say, I'm just going to stop off over here at happy hour? What happened? Whole paycheck. How many times did you say, I'm going to stop over here at my boy Ken's house? What happened? Whole paycheck. Ralph, did it happen once? Did it happen twice? If your name is Ralph, every 2 weeks from 1979 to 1985, whole paycheck. My experience, not yours, not my sponsor, not nobody else's. My experience abundantly confirms for me when I take one in anything, no matter where I have to go, what I have to do, who I have to see, no matter how great the wish or the necessity, my body takes over and I have to have another. Okay, smart guy, how do you explain stone sober, my car seemed to drive to the LI on payday? Second part of this disease, this mental obsession, the obsession that somehow, someday, I'll be able to control and enjoy this magic potion I discovered all those many years ago. Cold one to have. Where's that coming from anyway? The obsession to control and enjoy. Check this out. Anytime I was controlling, I wasn't enjoying. And anytime I was enjoying, I damn sure wasn't controlling. Why am I obsessed with that idea? I can't drink because of my body. I can't stop because my mind refuses to accept that fact. I'm powerless. Third part of this disease, spiritual malady. 12 and 12 describes it sometimes as a soul sickness. And in the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous, it says, Ralph, if you work on the spiritual, the mental and the physical are straightened out. That's what we do in these rooms. To our new friends, that's what this whole program is about. If you're looking for the speaker in front of you this morning that's going to be trying to scare you out the rooms with, oh, if you go back out there, still kicking ass, oh, if you'll have another speaker. That's not the message that I had to convey to you this morning. I shared with you guys that I did some of everything and what I used to think of as my heyday. And sometimes at the height of it, people used to look at the way I was doing and be like, damn, Ralph, ain't you scared of overdose? And I'd be like, overdose? I'm scared of the deadly underdose. You got to give me some most, So the message of the whole alcoholic of my variety is not the message of fear. The message that the whole alcoholic of my variety, the book describes it as a message that's got to have depth and that's got to have weight. And the message that this morning speaker brings to you that's got the most depth and the most weight is that you're looking at a guy who at 33 years old had given up on life. You're looking at a guy who at 33 years old had not answered anybody's 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock wake-up call to go to work in so long, no longer thought I was employable. You're looking at a guy who at 33 years old did not know where his family was living and didn't know what school his little girl was enrolled in. You're looking at a guy who had graduated from a major university in this country, and my job at the end of my drinking was taking the trash out for a 21-year-old who stayed across the street from my mom's house. I was living in the back and sleeping in the back of my mother's garage. I was eating lemons off a neighbor's lemon tree for breakfast. And I stumbled into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, October the 11th, 1986. And the men and women in this fellowship, the fellowship I crave, you love me and you nurse me back to health. You gave me something, a way out upon which we can all agree. And you told me something back then that I didn't believe, couldn't believe.
What the fuck is this game, bro?
I just love you till you can love yourself. Didn't believe that. My last 4 years when I was out there, I never looked at myself full face in the mirror. Never. I took fleeting glances. Couldn't believe what I had become. Couldn't stand what I had become. How you going to tell me you'll love something like me? Didn't believe it when they said it. If you turn your back on me, I'm liable to go in your purse right now. I stink. How you going to tell me you'll love something like me? That was before I knew what takes place in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. That was before I knew what happens when the God in you reaches out to the God in me. That was before I knew that in Alcoholics Anonymous, we specialize in loving unlovable people. And you love me, and you nurse me back to health. You gave me something I wasn't looking for. When I came in the rooms, all I wanted to know was how not to spend a whole paycheck every 2 weeks and how to get my ex-wife back in my life. And I got a whole lot more than that. If you're sitting in this room right now, and you think this program is just about not drinking and just about not using, you're shortchanging the program and you're shortchanging yourself. I'm not knocking physical sobriety, don't get me wrong. If you just don't drink and you just don't use, you might stop going to jail on the weekends. If you just don't drink and you just don't use, you might make it home with a whole paycheck. If you just don't drink and you just don't use, you might make it to work on Monday morning. But what this program has to offer is a whole lot more than that. What this program is really about is about obtaining and maintaining access to a source of power that does for me what I can't do for myself. What this program is really about is about obtaining and maintaining access to a source of power that can do anything but fail. What this program is really about You see people looking at the tradition. Some people talk about the work, the process, the program, the staff. What is this program about in my everyday life? You know, I have a friend up in Canada, Lou, and Lou says the program Alcoholics Anonymous walks, talks, and shakes hands. What this program is really about is alive, and it's vital, and it's vibrant. You want to see it? You want to see the program Alcoholics Anonymous? You want to see it at work? You want to see it up close and personal? Take a look around this room right now. What this program is really about is about taking people like us, drunks and boosters and dope fiends and convicts and con artists, prostitutes, tregs, failures as parents, failures as kids, broken down pieces of men and women who don't have dreams and goals and hopes anymore. This program takes people like us. And I stick one hand in your hand and the other hand in God's hand, and we pick up our beds and we walk out of these rooms as mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, sons, daughters, employees, employers, role models in our community. This program is about growth. This program is about change. If it's going to be any changes made in my life, it begins and it ends with me. I got the opportunity to work with a lot of men and women in this program. I had the privilege of walking through this thing called life with a lot of men and women. And I don't spend a lot of time with the don'ts in the program. Don't go around these kind of people. Don't go around them kind of places. Don't get in these kind of relationships. Don't do this. Don't do that. Do read the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous, with somebody who has working knowledge and experience with that book. Do go to lots of meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. Do get a sponsor who has a working knowledge and experience with the steps in their life. Do apply the steps of your life to the best of your ability right where you are right now. Do work with another alcoholic. Do get in touch with a God of your understanding. Then do whatever the hell you want to do. This program is about living. This program is about living. It ain't about losing. And I've been abundantly blessed since I've been in this program, man. That's the message of hope that I carried to you this morning, that you're looking at a guy who had given up on life. And at 53 years old, I conduct myself and I feel like a 53-year-old man does. 13 years ago, another woman asked me to share this thing called life with her. I got all the way down the aisle this time, and I even had her pictures to prove it. You know, I have an 11-year-old daughter at home that one day at a time has never seen her daddy loaded, and one day at a time she never will. I travel a lot. I travel a lot in this fellowship, and I travel a lot at work. I do a lot even at home, going from home during the week. And every time I tell my girl, talked to her on the phone yesterday morning, every time I tell her, Daddy's got to leave and he'll be back such and such a time or date, check this out. Never seen the flicker of doubt in her eyes like, I wonder if he's coming home. Because she don't know that guy. Daddy's always home. Imagine that. That 2-year-old daughter whose piggy bank I was going in. She's 23 years old right now. And on Father's Day this year, the whole family was standing in Pauley Pavilion. And I watched my little girl throw the tassel to the other side. She graduated from UCLA. And as we were taking pictures, you know, when you new friends, I ask myself a lot of questions all the time. You know, when I was new, I look at you guys who've been on this road a long time, and I say, I bet they don't even remember what it was like to get loaded. I bet they just up there telling, so they really don't remember, you know. And then, and I bet some days they don't even think about the fact they're alcoholic. I bet some days they've been doing this so long, it's like second nature and blah, 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 blah. And it's just so easy for, and check this out. Everywhere I go, everything I do, there's nothing. It's like this meeting right here. It's like when I was standing out at UCLA. You know the Verizon commercial where everybody's standing with you? It's like Alcoholics Anonymous is standing with me everywhere I go, everything I do. You know, you guys are just standing standing there, got my back, right? Because I'm standing there and at the oddest times and at the weirdest, you know, go to just go to a parent-teacher conference. Sometime I leave and I'm crying. Mundane stuff to other folk. You know, and if I say that to one of the other parents, you just don't know who this is doing. What, huh? That's why I still go to meetings 20 years later. Somebody in here understands what it means to just go to a parent-teacher conference. You know, when we were standing there taking the family pictures out of UCLA, you know, and they took one picture with the little girl on this arm and my big girl on this arm. And I remember thinking to myself at that moment, as they're looking at Daddy, and as I look back at the pictures now, I get to look from my girls. Like, this is my daddy and this is my hero. That's Alcoholics Anonymous. That's Alcoholics Anonymous. Didn't come here for that. That's Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, my 11-year-old. The things that you know, somebody in here is probably wondering, you know, well, when is this miracle going to happen for me? You know, everybody else is talking about this spiritual thing, and you know, I'm not feeling it. You know, when is it going to happen for me? And it's a looking back experience most of the time. You know, in Alcoholics Anonymous, I have had the privilege and I've had the benefit of a whole lot of stuff. I've had the privilege of the IRS coming after me real tough and wanting $65,000 right now. I've had the privilege of going broke at 16 years sober and moving back into my mother's house. I've had the privilege of standing up at some funerals that I've had to go through. I've had the privilege. Why is that a privilege? Because I've come out on the other side armed with something that I can't get no other way, and that's armed with an experience to work with another man or woman. See, there's some things in here that we do. Somebody in here feels like they're in a real dark place and it just ain't going to get no better. Somebody in here feels like, God damn, this money situation. And I have a sponsor that says, is it all right now? Not next week. Not if he don't act right by next week. Not if she don't get right by next month. Not if I don't get this money. Right now. While this long-winded speaker is standing up at this podium, is it all right? Right now. And every right now kept being all right. And when I get to the other side of something, I'm armed with something that's indispensable. See, I did something in my first year, and I reaffirm it every year. And I reaffirm it with some people. See, I did something that a lot of folk in here did, and they still do it, and they stand on it. God, I offer myself to you to build with me and do with me as you will. Relieve me of the bondage of self that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help. Keystone and Alcoholics Anonymous. Take away my difficulty so somebody out there can see God works. God works. God works. Having experience is fine. It's getting experience that hurts so much. Somebody in here just getting experience. Somebody in here just getting experience. So if I say God can handle anything, guess what? Sometime I got to have something for him to handle. Shit, that's all. I get grateful because now I start standing because I stand in grace all the time since I've been here. And now you know what happens whenever something seems like an adversity for me? I've been doing this thing long enough that I know whenever I'm standing in what seems like an adversity, get ready for the blessing. Huh? There's some people in here that'll tell you. There's some people in here that'll tell you that power is transformational. He'll take what seems like what I think, because the chapter ain't written, but I'm tripping off the page. Don't trip off the page. God's writing the chapter. Just a bad page right now. Removing her because I got something better for you over here. Just get out the way. And that's what has been my experience in here. Last year, I remember standing in this hall, not in this hall, but in a hall. And my mom came walking through the door because it was a birthday party she thought for my little girl. And my mom was walking in and she's late and she's rushing. Where's River? Where's River? And she walks in the door with the present out for my little girl. And about this many people, half this many people are sitting in that hall. And they all holler, surprise. And my mom just breaks down because these 6 grown leeches that had once been in her house, it's 4 of us in recovery right now. And we had given her a surprise 75th birthday party. Blew her away. Alcoholics Anonymous. When we were sitting around the house that night talking and reliving things, because I just thought we'd given her a party. And my mother said, Ralph, you know what? This is the first party I ever had in my life. Because my mom's the giver. First party I ever had in my life. I want to thank you guys on behalf of my mom that she got a chance to have a party while she's still here. That never would have happened. That's Alcoholics Anonymous. We do something in these rooms that most of the time, most of us don't even know we do. We uniquely qualified to do what it is that we do. Nobody else can do it. Nobody else can do it. That October in 1986, if God himself had come down and talked to me, I would have thought, oh, man, that little brief bout I had with PCP, oh, it's a flashback. Never would have made it to the rooms. Only person could reach me then was one of you. One of you. We uniquely qualified to do what it is that we do. And nobody else does it like us. And sometimes I miss it. I miss it. It's going on right now. And I'll miss it. I'll take it for granted. It's going on right now. It happens every time I go to a meeting. Every time. Every time me and you go to a meeting. Check this out. Every time me and you go to a meeting, some little boy or some little girl, I don't know, may never know, is getting ready to have a hell of a mom come back in the house. Every time me and you go to a meeting, I get to participate in some family getting ready to have daddy come back home. Every time I go to a meeting, I get to participate in some lady or some man getting ready to have a hell of a spouse come in their life. Every time I go to a meeting, me and you get to participate in some employer that I don't know and really could care less about, getting ready to have a hell of an employee come in the workplace. Every time I go to a meeting. Who wouldn't want to be part of a fellowship like that? Share with you guys, I always wanted to do something important. I always wanted to leave a significant mark on the world. My grandmother said, God writes straight with crooked lines. And I can think of nothing more important. And I can think of nothing more significant.
Dog, how the fuck did they jump that route like that?
Life-saving,
when every time they do the shit, they be open.
Anonymous. Whenever anybody anywhere reaches out for help, I want the hand of Alcoholics Anonymous to be there. For that, I'm responsible, and I take the responsibility real seriously. And I don't take it so serious that I'm glum and I asked this cat, and he's got 49 years of recovery. I said, Tom, what's the most important ingredient you found in your 49 years? And he didn't say walking with God, and he didn't say sponsorship, and he didn't say work with another alcoholic. All the stuff that I know is the most important thing. He said one thing, blew me away. He said enthusiasm. He said enthusiasm. Enthusiasm. If this is a program of attraction, make it attractive. Don't be sitting up in here, be monotone and, man, yeah. No. God damn it, new friends, I'm on fire for something that saved my life. You be on fire for it too. And if you're sitting here wondering when is it going to happen for me, anybody that's in here tripping, if you can bring something green out on Sunday morning following Saturday night and you still got it and you sober, you sitting in the middle of the spiritual experience right now. We have a lot of fun in here, and that's why I like these conventions. That's why I like what it is we do. New friends, man, if this wasn't a better way, I wouldn't be doing it. I used to worry and trip. What am I going to do when I get sober, And I had a counselor say, why would you ask that question? What were you doing before you got here? My life consisted of getting it, doing it, coming out from it. Getting it, doing it, coming out from it. Getting it. And I had the nerve to say what you're going to do when you're like, I had a full social calendar, right?
Come on, man.
I go to Laker games, Dodger
what
games,
Angel
games. I go to movies. I go to plays. I go to dinner. I go to work. I go to conventions. I go to meetings. I travel. I go to my mom's. I go to PTA meetings. I go to parent things. My life is so full, man. My life is full, and I have a whole bunch of fun doing this thing. Check this out. If you ain't laughing in this program, you ain't taking this program serious enough.
Oh my fucking God! He threw it off his back foot.
Enough for me. I don't soapbox real well.
That's crazy, bruh.
You're looking at a guy that loves this thing. I love this thing we do. I love this thing we discover. I love the fact that you guys restored this guy to health. I've been on this road for 20 years, and, I'm not so impressed with that, but I am impressed with what a loving God can do if you give him a little bit of material.
This team is fucking trash.
I am impressed that you guys have given me a walk with a sense of purpose. If you're coming from that dark place I come from, if you're coming from walking the streets at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning with no place to go, if you're coming from your family no longer wanting to see you, if you're coming from that place of not being present on holidays and at birthdays, if you're coming from that next year daddy place, next year I'm going to get that girl something. If you're coming from that real dark, lonely place, if you come from the place of no hope and you come to a place like this and you get embraced by people like these, and you get
way better than my fucking defense.
Over these past 20 years, man, I want to thank this fellowship for supporting me. I want to thank this fellowship for uplifting me. I want to thank this fellowship for encouraging me. I want to thank this fellowship for
I love how they just jump route as soon as the nigga run the shit.
I want to thank this fellowship on behalf of my mom. I want to thank this fellowship on behalf of my daughters. I want to thank this fellowship on behalf of my wife. I want to thank you on behalf of my family. I want to thank this fellowship on behalf of those new members we have.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Peter. I'm an alcoholic. Grateful to be alive and sober and at a meeting. Grateful for this gift of sobriety. What a weekend. What a weekend. I am beside myself. First things first, if I can thank the committee for this really wonderful honor and invitation to me to be here with you this weekend. My big book tells me that great events will come to pass for me and countless others. If my relationship with God is right, and this is nothing short of a great event, this has been absolutely wonderful. And what a treat to just be a part of this. Forget about speaking, just to be a part of this. And made lots of new friends and have some friends from New York who are here for support. And to my friends from New York, make yourself at home, hit somebody. I got a whole hour, by the way. I am very grateful to be a recovered member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I say recovered because that's what my big book promised me, and that's what I've come to experience. I will not share anything this morning on something I do not have experience on, because then I'd be a liar. But God has given me, and you have given me, wonderful experiences which have transformed my life a day at a time. I live a day at a time, but my spirit doesn't wear a watch. My spirit is able to just be and is. And when I'm integrated with that spirit, I don't live in before and I don't live in later on. I am awake to the present moment. What a gift that is. Because my life before I got here was driven by fear. God separated me from alcohol June 23rd, 1988, and I'm very grateful for that, and so are a lot of other people I know. But as a recovered member, I automatically assume their responsibility to
crazy,
traditions as well as the tradition of Alcoholics Anonymous, to study our literature, to understand our literature, to be in touch with our history. Because I found out here being brought up in Alcoholics Anonymous that when I understand what it is I belong to, I become a better member. And my job is not to suit up and show up now, but to understand where we came from, our very humble beginnings. I mean, this thing started a few years ago, but there's a whole legacy that preceded Alcoholics Anonymous that brought us to this conference, that brought me here to Alcoholics Anonymous. I need to be in touch with that. I need to know about that stuff. So many times I go into meetings and a new AA person walks in and they think AA like I did started when I got here. And isn't it a shame that some of us who've been around here a while don't take time out to share our history with them? We didn't have to be there that many years ago. A lot of us were born way after Bill passed away. But shouldn't we be in touch with our history and pass that on to the newcomers who walk in the door so they can be productive members, awake and informed members of Alcoholics Anonymous? That's the way I was brought up in Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's what I'm very grateful to be able to do a day at a time. As a recovered member, I no longer suffer from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Because of the information in the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous, which has awakened my spirit, I'm here today free. Free from the illness. Free from a lot of the isms that I suffered from, that drove me. Page 62 says we're driven by 100 forms of fear. It drove me up until the day I walked into Alcoholics Anonymous. And 6 months separated from alcohol in here, not drinking and going to meetings. It was still driving me because I was still running around in Alcoholics Anonymous untreated. And then a very great man was put in my life by a loving God, and I began the journey to the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous. My life has never been the same. I just went through this work recently with a new sponsor I met about 18 months ago. God put a wonderful teacher in my life again. You know, let me say this before we get going. If you're someone new, so I was at the count last night, and there were a bunch of new people floating around, and you don't have a sponsor, and you don't know who to ask, I can tell you from my own experience, this is what you do. You go into prayer and ask God to give you a teacher, because why would he deny someone to take you to him? He won't. So that's what I did. And 18 months ago, a new teacher showed up in my life. And I went through this work again. I've been through this work a couple of times. And my question was, how do I approach this work going through it again? I had a whole lot of information. I've been through the steps. I can tell you the big book forwards and backwards. I've studied it. I've worked with it. I've gone to big book workshops. I've done big book workshops. How do I do this? How do I approach this work again? You know, we're around here a little while, and we got this thing called Reemergence of Ego. I know the book. I could hear someone give a talk, and I'm saying, okay, they're talking about page 68. Have I become attached to the information? Have I started to worship the information? Or was I going through this work to get more information or to get a deeper relationship with this power that I ought to be worshiping and seeking? And that's what I approached this work with this time. Seeking this power rather than worshiping the information. Because there's work in the big book, all the steps that we do, all the things that we do in Alcoholics Anonymous, all these wonderful things are pointers. They guide us. They take us to a God of our understanding. Where hopefully we get to a place where we're completely stripped of everything, integrated with this power, and we get free. But on the way, what happens
what are you
the
doing?
things that take us to a power become the very things that block us from this power.
What is that?
Ego loves it. Because ego will endorse, I heard a gentleman
What
say
are you
yesterday,
doing?
ego will endorse what we know we're doing well. It knows where to get us. My big book tells us this is sly, clever, and devious, difficult to detect. A subtle foe. Alcoholism knows how to work. I went to the University of 86th Street. I had to look up the word subtle. I didn't know what it meant. And I found that it was sly, clever, devious, and difficult to detect. A great word for this illness that wants to lay in wait for me just to be open, to get in, and take me right out of here. So I approach this work by looking to get a deeper relationship with this power. Many times we get stuck on the second half of the first step. My life's unmanageable, okay. I know that. Blind man can see that. I know I have no power, choice, and control over the first drink while drinking and while I'm sober. Know that. But then we get around here a little while, and we start to get okay. You can tell new people right away. The guys get new sneakers, and the women get hairdos and manicures. You know they're new right away. Seems to be the first change. I'm not lying.
Is my controller hitting buttons? Oh, my mouse. I'm hitting my fucking mouse.
While, right? And we get a sponsor, and we go through the work, and we start speaking at lots of meetings, and people start to know us. We know where the coffee room is. We know where the restroom is. We know who's chairing the meeting. Things, we go back to work. The wife lets you back in the bedroom, you know. Things start to get nice. We get some money in our pocket. We get a little bit responsible. Things get nice. Things get comfortable. And we become a prey to the comfortability because any lens that we walked in here with, I'll do
You
anything
fucking
sponsor
idiot,
tell me to do.
stupid son of a
Suddenly,
bitch.
It isn't so important. It's like the amends I have to make. Tomorrow I'll do it. I'll throw this out for some consideration. A very great teacher told me this. We say, you know, I've gone through the steps, I've gone through the work, whatever terminology you want to use, it doesn't make a difference to me. But I've gone through the work, I've entered the world of the Spirit. Well, here's the question to consider. Do I have any outstanding
Wow, bro.
Sunday morning that I'm consciously aware of that I haven't made? Because maybe I've had a spiritual awakening as a result of steps 9.5. And have I really gone through the steps? Have I really entered the world of the Spirit? Have I really been woken up? And how come I'm not making those amends? Is it possible I have first step reservations, that maybe I became the power, that any lens I walked in here with is something like, well, you know what, they don't know me, I don't know them, they don't even remember me.
Wow, how the
I
fuck
feel
did they get
good
those
today.
passes off so fucking
How
quick?
dangerous. I feel good, because what we do is we worship our emotions
All
too.
these niggas is wide
So if I
open.
feel
Every
good, I wake
fucking
up on a
play.
Monday morning, I feel really good, I feel physically fit, everything's good, there's no noise in my head, I feel good, I feel spiritual, I must be doing
I'm not
something
going to
right.
sack the fucking quarterback.
As soon as I wake up,
That-
I don't feel so good.
That's not going to happen.
And I start to get down on myself, and the judge starts to scream at me. I don't feel so good today. I don't feel so spiritual, so maybe I'm doing something wrong. And I suddenly moved into worshiping my emotions rather than the power, which is what this is all about. This whole thing is about the glory of God and getting to your God, being integrated with it, and passing on to a new person who walks in the door who's completely
Yeah.
empty. That's my job. I'm here 15 years, thank the good Lord, recovered. I'm no longer the most important person at
What do
any
you
meeting.
need?
And if you think
I
you
gave
are,
you the
maybe
key
you're missing
already.
something. Because my job
Oh,
is
it's
to serve
shit right
Alcoholics
there.
Anonymous, to get the new recruit here, or when they're here to work with them and pass this on if they want it. And I've been guilty over the years of ramming this down someone's throat.
Yeah. Yeah,
I wanted it more than
there
you
was no
did.
need
And
to
I've been
take those
guilty
off.
of watering it down because I wanted it more than you did. Through trial and error, God has moved you to a place. If you want it, I'll walk through fire with you, but you going with me. And we'll get to the other side of that archway, one way or the other. And we'll both stand free, and then you'll go back into the fellowship and pull somebody out like me who wants this message. What great stuff. That's what we do here. We save lives. Because I found out this sick spirit, which I suffered from for many years, that blocked spirit, that dead spirit, that untreated person, we damage people. I destroyed my family, and not because I was that powerful, but this thing called alcoholism, which owns me, is. And it tore up my entire family, and they suffered. I became Debbie Devilman. They suffered from my illness. But the awakened spirit goes back into that family, and things change. You ever do a 12-step call? You walk into the house, you 12-step a guy, well, I've done it many times, and the wife is doing two things. Take him and get him out of here. And when you walk in the house, it looks dirty, it's dingy, it's depressed looking, it looks like a drunk. The house looks like a drunk. The other thing she'll tell us is he coming home? With fear. The kids are in the other room, the dog don't even want to know him. You work with that drunk, and they wake up, and you go back in that house 3 months later, 6 months later. It's a different house. It looks different. I've experienced this. The people in the house are different. It's different. It's woken up. Because that's what an awakened spirit does. It touches the lives of others. And it isn't because I or us are that powerful, but God is. That's what He does. We save lives. Look around this room. You guys look indescribably wonderful this morning. What a good deal. What a good deal. My home group is the Free Spirit Group, located in Brooklyn, New York, where the only requirement for membership there is a pinky ring, sunglasses, and gold jewelry. We got guys in my home group who think The Godfather was an educational movie. By the way, we also changed how it works into how you doing. A quick story about the type. I heard God has a sense of humor, the type of people God put in my life. I was a new kid on the block, and I walked into my group, and they were planning one of these AA outings, and they decided to go fishing. 5 guys from Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. We're going to go fishing. Never been fishing before, but they were going to go fishing. So, I mean, if they got water on their shoes, and they go, oh, you got my shoes wet. But how do 5 guys from Brooklyn get dressed to go fishing? Like I am this morning. These were guys, if you yelled out land ho, they would say, don't talk about my mother. But we were out on a boat, and, we'd set sail, looked like headed for Gilligan's Island, and my friend Sally Boy, that's a Brooklyn name, threw the reel in the water, and he's waiting for something. And an hour goes by, 2 hours goes by, and he finally grabs, and he's pulling on his reel, and he's pulling on the reel, and it's getting heavier and heavier, and we're thinking maybe it's someone from the neighborhood. We thought it was on a long vacation. And anyway, he pulls this fish on board, and it's flipping and flapping on the deck from side to side, so that's throwing punches at it and kicks at it. I'm starting to cry because of the poor fish that's throwing me overboard. And finally, my friend Sally Boy grabs this fish in a bear hug and goes to stick his head on the water. I said, Sally, what are you doing? He said, I'm going to drown them. And with all of that, I'm here recovered, man. How's that? But that's my home group. I suffer from back pain, and the guy told me, back pain is, I read somewhere, he says, Pete, it's from this deep inner rage. I says, yeah, I've been a home group member over here for 15 years. You would have back pain too. It has been the training ground for me, trust me. But it is my home. And I just want to put a plug and some gratitude for what's going on where I currently live for the last 8 years in Staten Island. Because there are... my friend Tom is here. What a gift in my life he is. There are just so many wonderful things happening in Staten Island, these clusters of enthusiasm. When I first got there was one group doing this work, and a lot of untreated stuff happening, and what a privilege it is to be a part of what's going on in Staten Island. It's like this weekend. I mean, we have people showing up an hour before a meeting and hanging out an hour afterwards. And you want to see the power of God? I see it in Staten Island meetings, because an hour after the meeting's done, you got a drunk in the corner working with another drunk, taking time out of their schedule because they know this person needs help. And I'm right in the middle of it. What a gift. What a gift I'm a part of.
What the fuck?
I was dying in a hallway 15 years ago, and I've been...
Bro, you're standing right there!
Some wonderful people in Staten Island. There's some nights, I know this sounds kind of corny, but there's nights I'm in bed and I just hold onto my pillow real tight because I'm just so grateful I'm sleeping in
Dude, I knew he was going to throw it to this fucking bag, bro.
Of the sacred place called Alcoholics Anonymous. What a treat. To tell you in a general way what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now, what I'm trying to be like today.
Wow.
As a result of living in all 3 sides of this triangle and working very, very, with a lot of enthusiasm with our disciplines in 10 and 11.
Who the fuck is checking Deshaun Jackson?
Because the benefits have been incredible. I need a whole lot of booze to get through life. I need a whole lot of God right now to live and to be a vital member of this place. My first drink came when I was about 14 years old. I grew up in Brooklyn, and I remember my first drunk like it happened last week. It was that clear to me because it was life-changing for me. My life has never been the same since my first drunk. It was a Saturday night just off the corner, across the street from a church. Actually, it was a bunch of storefronts made into this makeshift church, and they were raising money, and there was a feast happening. Excuse me. And I remember what I was experiencing then as I opened this talk with. I was driven by fear. You know, I was the type of guy who would shake in my shoes. You know, when you're so nervous, you can feel your forehead getting like sweaty, and you can hear your voice as you're talking, and you just got that vibrating going on. I was vibrating like that, and I was just so insecure. And I watched my friends drink a quart of Colt 45. They were passing around the court. And they were joyous, happy, and free, drinking beer. They were in the moment. You know, they were roughhousing, talking to the girls, and the music was in the background. And my friends were just off the corner. I was further down the block, maybe 20 feet from them. And I wanted so desperately to get in there and mix it up with them. I wanted. But there was this judge and this victim inside of me. The judge would bark at me what a loser I was, and the other part of me would say, you know, the judge is right. You don't belong anywhere. I tried hanging out with the jocks. I couldn't do it. I tried hanging out with the tough guys. I got beat up. I tried hanging out with the intellects. It was a disaster area. I couldn't even pull that one off. Wherever I went, there I was. And this Saturday night was certainly no different. They were drinking it, and what came to me was how many times my dad had given me very, very clear warnings, stern warnings about hanging out with those bums on the corner. I don't ever want to catch you drinking with those guys, and don't bring any of those girls around this house. Now, up until the time I walked into Alcoholics Anonymous and specifically made a 9-step approach with my dad, back then, when he would look at me, I would shake in my shoes. He was a tough guy from South
Pick the
Brooklyn,
fucking
a street
play.
guy, full of love. I didn't know until I got here, but a different character than me. And so when he would look at me, I would shake. And when he gave me these warnings, I took them until the Saturday night rolled around.
Oh, God.
There were many things going on in my family at the time. I had a mom who suffered from this thing called alcoholism. And she experienced more about alcoholism, talks about that incomprehensible demoralization. She experienced that over and over and over again. And I grew up with that stuff, wondering, when is my mom going to get better? When is she going to sober up? I didn't know anything about Alcoholics Anonymous. I just knew my mom was drinking herself to death. And she finally succeeded in doing that. When she died, I was completely leveled by it. I was destroyed by it. It took many years in here and not getting outside help to walk through that. And I've had some experiences with meditations to put that to rest. But back then, when she took her life, I was completely leveled. My design for living was removed right out of my lap. I had this guy called Dad who was cunning, baffling, powerful, 20 feet tall, and my mom was the only one I can go to. And she gave me great instructions for life, but she was just so sick. And she finally succeeded in what she tried to do for so long, and I was leveled, empty. And I think we all get separated from this power somewhere. I don't believe God puts us here and then separates us, leaves us on our own. That would be a cruel God. I don't have a cruel God, and I doubt you do also. I have a loving and caring God. But somewhere I got separated. My mom would teach me how to pray. I'm a Catholic. She would take me to church. She would do all these wonderful things and try to bring me up right. Tell me how much God loves me. And then she dies. I see her suffer and die. And I think that's where maybe I was separated from this power. Separated. And thank the good Lord I come in here and I had this new relationship integrated once again with this power. But back then it wasn't like that. And I think that's where I was separated from God. When I watched my friends drink, I wanted desperately to get in there, put my hand in there, grab the quart, and see what they were experiencing. It had to be better than what I was. Well, I remember the quart went around the first, second, third, fourth time, and I don't know why, but something came over me to put my hand in there and grab the quart, and I took a few pops. It hit my stomach, and nothing happened. And on that, I took a little bit more, and I took some more, and I took a little bit more, and something happened to me that I never experienced in my entire life. Doctor's opinion says the sense of ease and comfort that comes by taking just a few drinks I see others taking with impunity. They weren't suffering. I judge, your insides by the outside. They seemed to be okay in doing what they were doing. Their lives seemed to be okay. They were the older guys. They were like 16 and like rebels without a clue, but they were like my heroes. So I took a little bit more, and I took a little bit more, and I took a little bit more, and I got more fired up, and suddenly I was awake to the present moment. Because I wasn't thinking about my dad. I wasn't thinking about my mom. She died January 23rd, and this was spring, summertime. It was about 6 months later, and that pain was suddenly removed. The fear of my dad driving me up and catching me drinking on the corner, removed. The fear of the cops, removed. Everything. The voices up here, the vibrating, everything went away. Alcohol was my solution. And I will tell you this, alcohol helped me deal with my alcoholism for many, many years. It was a panacea for my ills, man. It was it. I drink, I feel better, I'll take more. I wasn't thinking about Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't even know what an alcoholic was.